Well, hello, and welcome to Gallifrey's Most Wanted. I'm Ross Aiken. I'm old who.
My name is Melvin Pena, and I represent YooHoo.
And I'm on holiday. Yeah.
Sitting in his mom's kitchen. Are you in her kitchen?
No, I'm in the living room. I'm in
The
the living
living
room. It just sort of borders onto the kitchen. It's not
it
Oh,
it's the
gotcha.
bathrobe that really screams vacation to me.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's not very warm and my hoodie got soaked, so I'm waiting for that to dry. So
It just
Oh,
looks very
I've had to go.
comfortable.
I've had to go for my Jedi robe. So yeah, there you go. There's the full compliment. There you
all right.
Excellent.
Next up, one time we should do Jeff. We haven't done a Star Wars pod. Uh,
go. Oh,
uh,
it's been too long.
we should do that. We need to do that. So, but let's get to what we're going to be talking
Yes,
about, which is the penultimate. I can say that one.
yes, that's correct
Um,
this week.
uh, Penultimate episode, The Wish World. I'm going to go first and then I'll let you guys jump in. There was a lot to enjoy in this episode.
Mhm.
I think it was entertaining. It had I don't think it matches up to its predecessors as much as a single episode. I mean, to me there was a lot of information. We had to be introduced to everything. I liked the parts. I don't think they assemble into anything, this isn't it, this is what I've taken out of it. And this is my hope from it is my big complaint last year was, and we all really loved the first the penultimate episode of the season. And then I felt the last episode of the season was just trying to, it was just too much. It just the normal doesn't stick the landing frustrated me. I'm hoping that they kind of fix that and that they put the clunky stuff and next some of it in the front half, and we're going to get a payoff next week when we get to see the meat of this story because there's not a lot of I don't feel there's enough meat on this one. It was just entertaining and I don't feel it was as good as the rest of the season.
I think this. I think I'm going to struggle to judge this episode until I've seen next week's episode.
Yeah,
Um,
good.
I think this is a lot of setup and the exposition. This isn't just exposition.
She says it
Well,
out loud.
kind of is, and you know what you're doing, Russell, because this is the exposition episode. This is where you've got to put all your playing pieces into place, ready for seeing where it's going to take you next week. I enjoyed it. I thought visually it looked amazing,
Yeah.
as this whole season has. You're seeing the money on screen again. It just felt very familiar. It felt a bit like the Master finale in David Tennant's
hmm
second season.
The
It felt,
sound
Yeah.
of drums.
Sound of
yeah, it
drums.
Yep.
felt very like that. We're on a thing high up in the air, overlooking the city, and all hell is being loose across the world. I've been here before, and again, I think a lot of it is going to depend on next week for me. This is probably the episode I've come away from without having an immediate reaction.
Yeah, I had to
Even
watch it a couple times.
even the reveal. Well, I watched this on my phone, in my mum's living room, sort of with one headphone in. So I couldn't give it everything it probably deserves, and I want to see
hmm
it on the big screen before I watch the finale next week. So I'll come back next week as well, probably with a slightly different opinion.
hmm
But sort of as a lead up, it's doing what it's supposed to do. It just felt very I've been here before, a little bit. At a time where I wasn't necessarily reviving with Doctor Who as hard. Now I have vibed with this season, so I'm willing to give it that time to breathe.
How about you, Melvin?
I understand where both of y'all are coming from. I have watched this, as y'all know. I mean, it's not a humble brag or a brag of any kind. It's just how I this is how I interact with Doctor Who. So I've seen this several times, and my reaction the first time I watched it was very similar to yours, Jeff. I'm like, It did, as odd as it is, it did sort of feel familiar, and it did give me that Sound of Drums. But I really love Sound of Drums. I mean, for me, that's a sort of Empire Strikes Back sort of approach to Doctor Who. And we were talking about referring to Star Wars earlier, and I feel like that's a good touchstone here. And Ross, I get where you're coming from as well. Like I say, I did watch this several times to try and get a grip on it, and after watching it again several times, I was, it was, for me, it was kind of like trying to figure out what it's just that sort of Obi-Wan thing where he's like, what I told you was true from a certain point of view, and so I'm like, what is the point of view I'm supposed to be getting here? Because I can get how people would be frustrated that Doctor Who is, very much in a sort of, even worse position than he was in sort of the Chameleon Arch two-parter with Martha Jones, where he's John Smith and he's completely ineffectual, but in those episodes he's in a scenario where he belongs. Here he is so completely out of his element, and I really enjoyed thinking about this not as an episode of Doctor Who, but as an episode of the Rani. When I watched it that way, I was like, it's not only makes much more sense, but it's also much more enjoyable, because you can take relish in the fact that this is the Rani's triumph. Like, she has, like, that when we start, like, in Bavaria, in Bavaria, as I think they say in Monty Python, that this is a plan that she and Mrs. Flood, even going back a generation, like, have been working on and executing. I feel like what you said, Jeff, that if you watch it again, that you will get more out of it. I believe that's true, because one of the things that, again, watching it multiple times, I was like, literally everything you need to know. And I get it, Ross, that this feels like, it does feel different than the sort of one and done episodes that we've had through the season that feel like this is a complete story in its own right. And I feel like if you watch this episode sort of with the Rani's sort of plan as is, that's what you're looking for, is like, who is the protagonist here and who is the antagonist? For me, the hero of this story is the Rani. This is her sort of story. This is the story of her triumph. And the antagonist is not Doctor Who. It is that camp of the forgotten abouts, the people who have been forgotten by society, the disabled, the transgressive, the social misfits, the people who are beneath the notice of the people who are running the game. And looking at it that way, it plays out much differently. And so I really, again, upon several watches, because I mean, that's the thing, Doctor Who fans, we're gonna watch this several, like, it may not be all right now, but there's no way that this is not something we're gonna watch again. Like, it's gonna happen. And so for me, I really sort of learned to enjoy it. For me, I didn't know, and I didn't feel like, especially when we were talking about the effects stuff, that RTD was sort of capable of this kind of imaginative leap into a really almost surrealist world, like the Bone Palace and those weird bone creatures. I just kept seeing those Dali paintings, Salvador Dali's The Persistence of Time, or the elephants. Exactly. Like, there's something really just weird about this. Like, it's the world that we recognize in a sort of, like, God, I hate it. I hate how prescient this was for when it was written about the world that we live in now. But we'll get more into that. I'm sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of. There was an album cover artist. Now, I can never get it the right way around. I think it's Roger Dean Lloyd, or it's Roger Lloyd Dean. I think it's Roger Dean Lloyd. And he did a lot of the Yes album covers.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
And there's one where there's like giraffe-legged elephants again. And it just has that weird sort of, this doesn't look right, but it's so right vibe. And if you like surrealist art, this may be the episode that you just revel in, I think. And I'm looking forward to see how much more surreal it gets next week, because I think it's only going to get weirder.
And the other thing, like, just before I let y'all go again, is that for me last week, if you'll recall, Gallifrey's Most Wanted, episode 186.
Mhm.
I said that sort of in as much as I predict anything, sort of it felt like we were heading towards a finale where the Doctor wasn't going to save the day, but it was going to be all the waifs and strays he's picked up along the way. And I felt like this only just reinforced that for me. But I just wanted to say that really quick before I let y'all go. So go ahead. Sorry, Ross.
Yeah. I want to touch base on the look. The look is amazing. The concepts they've decided on. Basically, this is your 50s suburban, Jeff, right? Culture that they're living in, which would be close to ours. The houses would look different. He wouldn't be wearing a pinstripe suit and a bowler, but he'd be wearing a tight gray, a black, blue, royal blue suit. You know what I mean? In the minor creek job, which is hell to me. I mean, it is absolute fucking hell. When me and my wife first got together, we went to visit friends in the suburbs, and she goes, "Would you ever live in the suburbs?" I said, "No, because I'd start burning shit down." I grew up in the American dream suburb. I don't want anything to do with it. It's a shithole. It's horrible. It's terrifying. It turns you into these people that I'm doing what's right. I like that. I like the aesthetic. It's beautiful. This season has, I think, been designed and shot so well. The money's incredible. On the screen, like Jeff said. It looks great. I like that we have a Doctor who doesn't wear the same outfit every week. So, and I do like the pinstripe and the bowler on him. That's a good Doctor.
Well, you're talking about that. The other painting that came to mind throughout the episode was Magritte, the Son of Man. The character, it's the one where it's just a figure standing in the center of the painting wearing a bowler hat, and he's got a giant apple in front of his face. That kept, because I mean, and also the Kinks. I don't know if y'all know the Kinks, the sort of rock opera they wrote called Arthur, or the Decline and Fall of the British Empire. But I kept having this, like, when they were showing the suburb that they live in, I kept having that, I can't remember the name of the song off the top of my head, but the lyric is, and all the houses in the street have got a name, and all the houses in the street, they look the same. There's just something really, like, monotonously nightmarish about it. And like, speaking exactly to that point, Ross, like for me, the key moment, the key scene of the episode was, I mean, there wasn't a single word in it. It was Belinda running out of the house into the forest to scream. Like, there's something really, like, pivotal about that to me.
The torture of it, like seeing Kate and Unit, just turned into Clark, and doing mundane, and they're an insurance company. God, man, what a horrible play,
I mean, that's Virgin on Gilliam and Brazil and stuff like that.
It's really, and I like that part a lot. I liked it. I really did. I like that, and then it's incomplete. I want to talk about that it's coming out of Conrad's brain, but that's a separate
exactly.
That's
we
a separate
need to talk
thought.
About that. Well, we were already there, so we might as well talk about, because again, that was something I had to put together over multiple watches. Like
that, I caught more on the second viewing. Is that
because that's the other thing, is like, it almost feels like that series of, like, it's either what is it from the Star Trek Lower Decks, where it's like a giant koala, or like koalas all the way down, like sitting on top of turtles into infinity, like that, to see the structure of it, because the Rani had to go get the wish baby, right?
The demon, whatever.
The wish baby that powers
God of wishes,
that powers the engine, which is fueled by Conrad, because Conrad, what the world is built on is the elimination, or the quashing, or the crushing of doubt, and that's the one character like Conrad who has complete faith and belief in what his, and we talked about that during Lucky Day. Like, does he really believe this? Like, is he, does he have the sort of like the ability to really believe in what he's selling? Or is it why is the word gone out of my head? We talk about it all the time, the ability to just, like, distance yourself from what's right in front of you. Yes.
And now that, see, this is that internet troll kind of person. It's like, we're debating math. Well, you believe in this scientific thing, but I don't believe it. Why not? Well, it's math. You can't. It's math, science, folks. It's that's that. but that disconnect that some people have, like the people that listen to Joe Rogan,
Yep.
or like someone who believes in nothing, because he believes in whatever someone is telling him in front of his face, say in the show.
Yes.
That's what he believes. And so this is the lack of imagination. That's why the world's imperfect.
Yep.
Because the lack of imagination Conrad has, because he is, whatever has damaged him, he wants the world to be this way because maybe he won't feel as angry or as alone. But he's created a fear state.
All of these people feel scared. They feel threatened. They feel intimidated by everything and everyone else around them unless they can control it. That's the key. I actually couldn't help but feel just a mote of sympathy for Conrad through this episode. He has clearly been moved from one prison to another prison.
Mm-hmm.
He is clearly being forced to just keep this alive constantly. He says, "I'm so tired." And he's got this scary baby thing.
Yeah. I did too. I think
it's weirdly like the Matrix. It's weirdly like the Matrix, where where Conrad and the baby they're not plugged into anything, but they are the battery that's powering this experiment. And the weird thing about it, again, in a surrealist way, in a surrealist mode of thinking, is that this feels excuse me. I mean, George Orwell, I feel like, is going to come up quite a bit thematically, but like it feels like a dilation, a surrealist dilation of the 2 minutes hate, where he is broadcasting 24 hours a day. And it feels sort of like, a really weird sort of twist or trope, to use that word in the correct way, a sort of twist and a turn of the way that we see 24-hour cable news. Where the one of the popular things that's come up here in the last few years here in the United States is that Fox News did to our parents and grandparents what they said that video games would do to us. Like it's sort of made them feel violent. It's made them sort of recreate the world in the image that the news is giving them. And so Conrad constantly giving them not necessarily like force-fed hatred, but a force-fed reality that they are not able to turn. Like they can't turn their TV off. Like it's literally always on. Kate says, okay, it's 9 o'clock, it's time to do work. The TV is still going constantly, that they have this sort of going into their ear all the time. Like for me, that is that it's that, yes, it is that viral. It's like nonstop virality. It's like you're constantly being force-fed the opinions that are needed to fuel the world that you live in.
Yeah, I want to talk about the baby because it was weird. So first time I watched it, it's so weird, man. No, and that dude, I thought they had prosthetics on him, the husband, because he looked like a badly made up Star Trek alien. And then the camera came in and went, fuck, he looks like that. I mean, he doesn't look like that every day, but that's his face.
I know him from something. I'm sure I recognize him.
He reminds me, what it jumped out to me, he reminded me of Billy Crystal's character in The Princess Bride a little bit.
Yes. Yep.
He had
he's got a bit of an Andre the Giant on the go, actually. Funnily, you should say that. No, I'm sure he's done something. I'm sure he's done a lot of comedy stuff.
He's what I like this, because I didn't know what, like, when she blew at the wife and she turned into petals. She turned the kids into ducks. They turned him into, and I went, what? And I'm like going, okay, RTD, what is this? Some new superpower? Please do not have flying Rani. Don't, that was great. Popped right in my fucking head.
Yes, I love the little. I
did like
scooter.
But it was the baby wish. I didn't catch it until the second time. She would kiss the baby and then make a wish. And I went, oh, that's fucked up.
It is fucked up.
I liked it. I liked
She's
it.
Literally like, again, like that idea of that of the battery from the Matrix. Like there's something like really like physically like almost cannibalistic about the way that operates. And it's really gross and weird.
Yeah.
And unsavory in the way that she's like literally feeding off the baby.
I liked her. I really, one of the things I really liked is Archie. I don't know how to pronounce her last name because I know
which one.
The current Rani.
Her name is Archie Punjabi.
Okay. And my wife knows her because she watched The Good Wife. And she won 3 American Emmys for playing a lawyer. in the good one, and she was evil in that one. But I liked her a great
She is
deal.
incredible.
She was really good, and I want to give big kudos. It's of Davies of having her actually say, "Yes, I know this is a lot of exposition."
That was good. That was
She
good.
says it out loud. He's like, okay, so they don't bitch. I'm gonna have the bad guy say, yes, this is a lot of exposition.
But she also says this isn't just exposition, because part of the point of it is to fuel the Doctor's doubt.
Doubt,
which I also like, that there is a diegetic reason for it.
Yeah, I like that. I liked her a great deal. Anita Dotson.
She was great in this episode too.
More in love with her every episode. Yes, man. When she's bitching about when they call the ham, it's like pig fat, and she makes a sandwich. And I had the same sympathy for Conrad. I think it's killing him. It's eating him alive. That whole thing. But her energy is crazy.
It's him learning doubt that is going to be the ultimate downfall of all of this. I do just wonder. Something's going to make him doubt that is going to bring the walls come crumbling down.
I think Mrs. Flood is actually gonna. I think we're gonna have another like previous incarnation, not like the next incarnation, because they're just the Rani isn't. I always saw the Rani as I just want to fuck around and experiment on people, and want to be left alone, Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm not trying to conquer anything. I need these people as lab rats that I don't see them as sentient beings.
No,
you know. She's a little master in here, but I don't mind. She looks good.
And she says that
there
at the end.
And that's the thing.
She says that at the end. She's like, I'm actually growing fond of these little animals, or whatever it is she says about, the earth as she looks down upon it. But no, it's a petri dish to her. And that's the thing about the Doctor, is that she, makes clear in this episode that it's the Doctor's blundering across the universe that has created the conditions that allow her to engage this experiment. Like, it's him who has unlocked who unlocked the Pantheon. Because he unlocked the Pantheon, the baby could be born. Because the baby could be born, she can again, it's that stacking of conditions that allow her to pull this experiment off, which is to
even goes around and gathers all the data for her and which is incredible, because it also reminds me of, I don't know if y'all have heard the one box set that they did, Big Finish, when they brought back Lucy Miller, and it's a phenomenal box set. It came out maybe 6-7 years ago, I think. But the thing of it is, like, the stories stand on their own individually, but then you get to the end, and one of the is like the island of the Fendal, which is what comes back at the end, because that they've gone to all of these different destinations, that on the star map, it forms a pentagram, which allows the Fendal to come back. And so I was getting really huge vibes off of this for that. And I it was really fun to see the sort of season fall into place that way, that this has all been orchestrated from the start.
I want to, while you say that, you said Big Finish, because, well, let's wait. We'll talk about the big reveal at the end, because there is a Big Finish connection to that. But what did you guys think of? What are your thoughts any more on the new Rani? I want to see what happens next week when she's got a doctor that knows who he is to spar with. I want to see that. But did you guys,
she's basically redoing what she was doing in Time and the Rani, where she's got a world under her control again. And that is certainly something that she likes doing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I really liked? My favorite thing, and I know it's incredibly tragic, but just having that big seal of Rassilon in the control room.
Yep.
That just felt so old school Doctor Who to me, that I was just like, yes, please, thank you very much.
I think that's I think Davies is doing that on purpose, and I've seen the internet where you've got different generations and different kind of cliques, as all fandom. I'm not saying it's unique to Doctor Who. It's fandom. Fandom is just high school for older people when it comes to cliques sometimes. But the thing that no one knows who this is. because all the new fans don't know who Omega is. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Because I don't get it because
they literally tell you in
who
the
he
episode.
is. Yeah, we didn't know who Omega was in the Three Doctors when we first saw it.
He was just somebody who was wrestling John Pertwee in the dark. Like,
yeah. But I love that.
With Rice Krispies on their face in Amsterdam. If you're an 80s kid like me, thank you very much.
Well, but I like that they're doing that because that is a little bit. Let's just have a flavor of the old school.
Yep.
You know, because when he first came back and the first time he did it, he avoided that for a while. You know, he added it on a little bit as he went, but his assumption is, I've given you everything. Because he helped set up Universe, everything that you can watch is available to you now.
Yep.
Deep dive. So he's going to pull from everywhere, and I love Omega.
Well, I mean,
I really love Omega.
Before we go there, I need to have my say about the Rani because you asked, and so I loved the Rani in this episode. I loved both of the Ranis. I loved the weird relationship dynamic between the two of them that we saw, hinted at last week, and it was really, I felt like, fleshed out and developed this week. That there is a sort of combativeness between them, but also like when the plan comes together and they go out on the railing. They both like lean in at the same time and are just like satisfied with what they've wrought. Like there's something really like, there is a sort of, while there is the sort of combativeness there's also a tacit agreement between them that what they are doing, they are in concert on. They may quibble over certain details, but again, I love their relationship. I love that we have these two characters. There's a flavor of that Kato Mara from the 80s, but also these are completely their own characters. And also, to give you that flavor that what you were talking about, Ross, of that, and you, Jeff, like about that sort of 80s flavor, it feels like, the Chibnall era gave us a very distinct perspective on the 80s. And I feel like this is a completely different perspective on it's RTD taking this and saying, like you said, he's sort of mining the past, but making it new, making it fresh in a way that it sort of felt, and this is not to disparage the Chibnall approach, but it felt like the Chibnall approach was sort of reflective and sort of like ruminant in a sort of way, sort of solipsistic in a way of bringing something back and looking at it in a nostalgic way, whereas it feels like RTD is saying, what are the things about the 80s that we can move forward with, that we can do new things with? And it really feels like, again, it doesn't feel like RTD has done this before. It feels like he is marshaling these pieces and putting putting them on the board in such a way that we're going to get something that we really haven't seen next week. And I really like this idea of this bold, experimental. And again, it's tied up in the weird 50s stuff too, which is, it just made me feel really uncomfortable just thinking about that part of the experiment and the Conrad part of it. Like the Rani obviously doesn't care who she hurts while she's doing these experiments. And there's something really like callous about that. And I feel like RTD is wanting us to think about that because it's not a huge part of the episode, but you get it twice. You get it when they're in the unit headquarters and the doctor tells Colonel Ibrahim, you're a beautiful man. And that is something that is specifically forbidden. And then you get it when the doctor is telling Belinda about when he saw Rogue on screen. And he's like, I felt this pull towards him. And she's like, you're not supposed to do, like, there's something here about gay panic that I feel like we're also supposed to be taking away here. And I'm not sure 100% how that fits in. But I wanted to throw that in because, again, I feel like it's to do with the Rani. It's to do with the 80s. It's to do with It's a Sin and Years and Years. And like all of this stuff is sort of a cauldron in which is going to explode.
Yeah, I think Davies puts that in there that everybody has to be heteronorm. They're not worried about race. You know what I mean?
Which is odd also.
They're race blind, but because Conrad, he sees, because he knows that the world's multicultural, that his country is made up of different people, but he wants that attitude. That's what the far right in this country do. They go, we want to go back to where it was better. Better for who? Black people got lynched.
Yep.
Gay people lived in the closet.
Yep.
Wives got beat up. women were second class. There are all those things that when they go, you want to go backwards. No, but in that, I think they do it to have this doctor show that and use that message, and it be that the gay being gay is wrong. I really like that. And
well, that's the thing. Some of the policies and legislation that's being passed now, like some of the sub things that they're adding are like you can't, not only are they cutting Medicaid and Medicare, like people's ability to get health care, but like they're cutting off like all access to gender affirming treatments. Yep, exactly.
Even yeah, so, but yeah, I'm glad they had that message in that, and I get what you're saying, because that's what that world is. That post-war suburban 50s into 60s world is an illusion. It always was an illusion. It's never been real. People weren't happy in the 70s. I remember the late 60s, early 70s. I was kid. People weren't fucking happy. It wasn't this happy world. People acted like they were. But it was just everybody was depressed.
Well, it's what Mel says. Like when she comes out and when Ruby has come to the door, the doctor tells her not to follow her, and she's like, oh, and once Ruby goes away, he asks Mel what she's going to do to celebrate May the 24th, and she's like, well, I have no children, I have no family, I'm going to sit in contemplation and be glad. And I'm like, that's, again, it puts very succinctly what this world has done to quote normal people, which for me highlights that idea that Poppy can be, the grandmother calls it cheeky, but when the grandmother asks her if she's looking forward to May 24th, and Poppy says, just instinctively shouts no, that you get that element of resistance, which is not only the very young, because the grandmother says she'll be broken of that eventually, because the pattern is clear that she will be a good child, she will be a good mother, she will be a good wife, and then a good mother. But that there's something about the untrainedness, the ferality, as it were, the feral nature of childhood, the unacculturatedness, sort of her, and then that camp of, again, misfits. Whether you want to see that as people who are culturally transgressive or physically disabled, like there's something between those in that spectrum that is completely resistant to being categorized and defined and restricted in the way that the rest of society is. I don't know if there's anything in that, but like, well, again, there's just so much in this episode that's just like you're swimming through. Again, it feels like a Salvador Dali painting. Like you're trying to figure out what is relevant here. What am I,
a lot of questions.
What am I grabbing onto? What's here that I can anchor myself to?
Well, maybe some of those things are there to leave us doubting and to leave us asking questions, because that's the whole point.
Yep.
Is okay. These people aren't asking any questions, yes. So maybe they don't need answers. They just need questions being asked of them to actually make them mean something. Maybe that's the point.
I think you're right, Jeff. Now that you say this, because I was going to bring up Shirley going, yeah, we don't have work, we're ostracized, we live here, but I have a state of the art wheelchair. I should be taking medication, but I don't, and I feel fine. What's going on is because as much as Conrad had, there's something keeping everybody safe.
Yep.
Why not just kill them all?
Yep.
But something is keeping.
Not include them in this reality.
So
wouldn't be a hard task to accomplish. But in fact, the fact that they are there and they are living as this subclass citizen, just shows sort of like the cruelty of it all. You can exist here, but you have no place in this world.
Okay.
But you can exist here. And I imagine for a lot of people in day-to-day situations often feel like that. Ableism is institutionalized. It's in the way buildings were built. I have a building that opened in 1967. It has a ramp so you can get in, but it has no upstairs disability access at all.
And that's
It's
one of the
like
things
what?
that was one of the important segments for me in, excuse me, Mr. Stefan Paul Unleashed this week, was that they did an entire segment about that camp and how it was specifically constructed and designed with accessibility in mind, with broad
Yeah.
accessibility, not only for wheelchairs, but if you look that the tents are all different colors so that people that are either colorblind or sight, visually impaired can differentiate between them. Like that, and the Ruth Madeley, when they interviewed her about it, was like, I've never been on a set like this before, which is like, that's extraordinary in its own right. But like the location was chosen, the set was designed specifically with them in mind. And one of the things that really unlocked this episode for me, and it goes to exactly all the things we're talking about, which is the sort of deep sense of unease that we feel just being in this world, was it was weird. I just came across it yesterday while I was looking at the internet. There's an article in the Guardian this weekend about hypernormalization. And what this is the word was coined, I think, in like about 20 years ago, in an academic study of the Third Reich, the rise of the Nazis in Germany, and how quote normal people sort of acquiesced and quote let this happen. Which again, we're living through that right now. Like we're living through that right now. And to go to what you're talking about and what we're talking about with this disabled camp, is that one of the quotes in this article that really moved me was like, the person says, what we're really scared of, sorry, this one's going to get me. What we're really scared of is that the people in power have not got our back, and they don't give a shit about whether we survive or not. And I feel like that is sort of the not is part of the backbone of this episode. But I want to say a little again, they sort of encapsulate what this term means. Hypernormalization captures the juxtaposition of the dysfunctional and the mundane. So, like, what is bizarre and what is everyday. It's, quote, the visceral sense of waking up in an alternate timeline with a deep bodily knowing that something isn't right, but having no clear idea how to fix it. It's reading an article about childhood hunger and genocide only to scroll down to a carefree listicle highlighting the best dressed celebrities or a whimsical quiz about what Pop-Tart are you. And so I don't know about y'all, but that feels like this, that is the heart of this episode. And again, it's like what we're living through right now. It just feels so unsettling to me.
Well, I mean, Davies is good about that, and we've said that this whole season, and even last season, people, it's gotten more woke. But if I see one more of these, doctors being fired, the show's being axed, all that shit's popped up because it's the end of a fucking season. But there's he wants us to see these things. I mean, he does it. I mean, ever since he left Who the first time, he has only written things that have that is set to say something, and that he's still gonna. I think he's doing a great job. He's trying to be a good ally, and this is the only tool he has in his toolbox other than him going out in public and saying, "I've got your back,"
which he also does.
Yeah, which he also does better than most people.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing that it brings Orwell to mind is like, I feel like, I can't remember if it was him or Graham Greene, but both of them are pretty good about this. But I think it was Orwell who said something like, who was quoted as saying something like, ever since, what was it, like 1930, whatever was the date, he said, every word I have written has been against fascism. And I really feel like, there's a way in which, during the Moffat era, you got that during the Monk trilogy, say, which felt really sort of on the nose about the world of, what was it, 2016, 2017, even up through the end of the Capaldi era, where he said, every age will bring us the Cybermen, or every age that Trump is inevitable in every timeline. Like that there was something very on the nose about that in a very explicit way, where it feels like RTD is bringing a really, again, surreal, allegorical, figurative, metaphorical approach to this, where, every week we can sit and talk about an episode of Doctor Who that has nothing to do specifically with the world we live in, but it is also steeped in what we're dealing with every day.
Art in its purest form is a mirror, period. There's this thing that people go that, write what you know, write what you do. But a good writer, a good storyteller is that we can see ourselves in it. And Davies is making sure people could visually see their, they can see people, they can see themselves more. But I mean, just as a reflection that he can, it's the only thing he can really write, I think, in some way. There's him as a writer, others don't. But you know what I mean? He's got to be shining a mirror on ourselves and on our society. Conrad and that ilk, and I very prejudicial to all those guys in the Manosphere. I don't understand it. And
yet we feel
but we have
sympathy
to
for
see
him too.
We do. I mean,
this is
yeah.
very unusual for this episode, for this era, especially knowing what we know about Conrad, that we do feel that way.
Yeah.
Because we're all prisoners in what we're forced to live in, effectively. We are all prisoners of a sort in one form or another, be it physical disability, mental disability, points of view, opinions. The way that we're raised has an impact on that. The media that we read, the hyper-normalization that we've just been talking about.
Cognitive dissonance. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Yep.
We are all prisoners here in this reality that we may not ascribe to and want to be a part of, but we all have to, because it's the only way the world functions. We all have to be a part of something. Yeah. Whether you agree with it or not, you still have to survive. You still have to make your way through the world, and you just have to find the path that is truest to you and your core and your beliefs and your way of seeing the world. And that's why you rail against people like the Conrad of the episode, and you try to support those like the disaffected and the disabled camp. It's you have to pick your path as best you can, and sometimes you will have to do things that you do not want to do and that do not align with your principles, and that's the prison that we're all in, and that's the trap that we're all in, and that's the reality we all have to face on a day-to-day basis. It's and RTD has writ that large in this episode without ever having to say it.
Yeah,
no, and to get,
which is it's incredible.
And to make him more simple, and to make Conrad feel more, because I think that's definitely what the actor and what Davies and director are doing is. Conrad thought it would be easy to make every bow to his, because he's right. You know, I'm right. Everybody will agree with me because I'm right, and I don't doubt anything. I have no doubt. But once he has to hold that universe together, it's with it's draining. It's like, am I doing a good job? Because the slip, he can see all the errors, all the mistakes, and I like the slip
by it as the people forced to live within it. He's as much a part of he's as much entwined in that trap and caught within the web as anyone else.
But he knows it.
And the weird thing is, like,
it makes it worse. He knows what it is.
And I feel like part of that is the weird sort of, we were mentioning earlier, the weird sort of gender politics of the world that he's created, that everything seems to hinge weirdly on women's reproductive roles, that there is a whole sense in which, but he is outside of that economy himself. Like he is made to take care of a baby, which I feel like there's something about that we haven't really touched on, that is part of exactly what we're talking about. The fact that he is denied a partner himself, that he is looking for reassurance and a pat on the back from these maternal figures, but he has to deal himself only with Mrs. Flood. Like, I feel like he is somehow like there's something about his being denied access to the Rani, the Archie Punjabi Rani, that also has a part to play in this. But again, it's that sort of really weird idea, and again, it's something that's being forwarded here in the United States in really bizarre and uncomfortable ways. This idea of how do we incentivize women to become baby farms, in a way, like that someone actually promoted an idea, one of the GOP like Congress people a couple weeks ago, that was weirdly similar to the sort of Nazi idea of we would give medals to women who bear like 5 or more children. Like, there's something really bizarre about that economy as well.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to worry about how many children are in the country if you can't be bothered to educate them anyway. So you don't have to worry about the school system anymore. You just give them. Uh, Again, watch Jojo Rabbit, and
Yeah.
It's
look
still
at
on the
the.
list, I promise.
Yeah, yeah.
But the fact that they're holding this weird, trying to hold this and promote this weird system while the world is literally falling apart, like again, it's so on the nose. It's so on the nose, and it's so damning. Like that's why it's hard to think about this season in the way that we've thought about previous seasons, especially if we're thinking of season 1 and 2 as one narrative. This idea of can RTD stick the landing? Because I feel like there is a story here that he's telling,
Yeah.
and I don't know. That's one of the things that came to my mind at the end is like there are so many threads in the air. How is he going to wrap this all up? But I'm like, part of it's not about the plot. Does that make any sense?
No, yeah,
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
yeah, I think he's message is part of it. Message making us think.
Sort
He's
of
not
like
giving us
last
the answer. He's saying think.
Again, sort of like last year, there was this idea where people were really upset about RTD not sticking the landing when from the church on Ruby Road onward, the point was can't or the point for the companion for Ruby was can I find my birth mother? And she found her birth mother. Like that was the end of at least that
Yeah.
was the sort of conclusion of that part of the narrative. Whether the sci-fi elements played really was sort of secondary to what was going on. And I feel like that we're sort of inverting that this year, that
Yeah.
that the weird elements are so over the top, they're so weird that we're not thinking about is that idea of, and I've heard people talk smack about it on the internet, and I've heard them on podcasts talking about like, well, Belinda's really a one note character, isn't she? She just like wants to get back to her parents. I'm like, yeah, she wants to, like, that's a pretty
Primal
obvious
driving girl.
yes.
Yeah. I mean,
And again, that idea that here she is a mother in some way and they keep telling her that it's not her baby, but this is the reality she knows. So the fact that they
yeah,
keep disturbing that when her own mother and her auntie, I guess, are like literally right there, and that goes unacknowledged for most of this episode. And I feel like that idea of that hyper normalization of the idea that something's wrong. Again, for me, that pivotal scene where she just runs out of the house and screams. Again, there's something really powerful to me in that there's something inarticulable. There's something that she can't say, but that is what is at the heart of this episode. It's that all she knows how to do is scream because she's been thrust into this reality where she has no, there aren't like the guardrails are so specific versus the people who are in the camp in the city are the ones who not only, again, Shirley says, we're not just sitting on our thumbs here. We have a plan to bring down God. Like that the most of us fit into one of those two camps. That either we make grassroots plans to change the world that we live in, or all we can do is scream.
Yeah. I agree. It's kind of like I just watched finish Andor too, and it's kind of like that. Everybody has to choose sides. You have to make a decision. You have to choose a side. You're either in the rebellion or you're in my way.
Well, and that's the other. There's a character in season 1 who says everyone has their own rebellion.
Yeah, yeah. So
which goes to exactly what we're talking about.
All right. So hey, so we can start getting toward wrap it up. I want to kind of touch on two things. That first is, and I'll start is I like Omega coming back. Omega, I like him coming back. If it's just don't let it be a little bit less. Make it a little more personal than it was, like Sutek was a little bit at the end of last year. A little more someone the doctor can face. I like it. I like that the words of, because Stephen Thorne is no longer with us, but they had his voice, and that was from a Big Finish. It's the first time an audio clip from Big Finish has been used in the show.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I just saw that in the notes. It comes from I forget which story. It came from a Gallifrey. I think from one of the Gallifrey sets. I just want to see what they do. Hey, I like an old bat. I like Omega. He was always a villain I kind of liked. You kind of felt sorry for him.
It's the RTD's hit the hat trick, hasn't he, this season?
Mm-hmm.
So he's nailed It's Susan. He's
Yes.
nailed.
Nailed it,
He's
Rani.
He's nailed it. He's
Hey,
going with
Hey,
it.
bro.
So he hit the hat trick. That's it.
hey, all of you,
What on
troll
earth is
this.
Doctor Who going to do in the future now? It'll be the Black Guardian next. Just watch, yeah.
But maybe that's part of the point. Maybe
Maybe it is.
You know,
Oh, he's got. He's
let's just
probably
clean
got
out.
a.
Let's just clean it out. Let's just
We're
get it all
done.
out there and
We're
let them
done.
again.
Everybody's come back.
That's something that I brought up earlier in the season. It sort of feels like, let's get all the toys out of the box and just like wipe it all clean so the next person has a clean slate. We've brought everything back.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I want to also ask, so when they said the Doctor never had a baby, he doesn't have
a daughter.
But Poppy's real.
Yep.
Poppy is real. She's not an illusion. And the Doctor actually falls. But I do have a daughter. Doesn't say granddaughter, but a daughter. So I like that cliffhanger. I'd like to see, I had my little nerd thing. We're gonna not only meet Susan, but Susan's mother.
I'm wondering if there's some link. And again, my prophecies don't really matter, but I'm wondering what link, what link, if any, there is between sort of Susan and Poppy in that sort of, again, that familial context, or if there is any. Because again, Poppy showing up again, Rogue showing up again, really sort of caught me off guard. And it wasn't until I watched again several times, I'm like, it just looked weird. It looked odd. It felt odd. I'm like, what is the point of this? But we were thinking again about that sort of gender hierarchy, the sort of sexual norms that are talked about in the episode, and this idea of by generation keeps coming up again and again. I'm wondering, because people are speculating if this is Shooty's out, if he's leaving. Like for me, like what would the best ending for him be? Again, it would be to bigenerate and run off with Rogue. Like, what a happy ending would that be for the Doctor? To like have the adventure that he wants to have. Like there's something really beautiful about that. Again, just thinking about it made me happy.
Yeah.
And so that's my only sort of wish or prophecy for if it is the end of Shooty's era, that's what I would like to see.
Yeah. I'm not going to try to guess on, all right, has a decision been made? Are they going to do it? Are they going to rest? Who knows?
Yeah.
With, they are pulling back on productions for streaming because they got to figure out what this model is going to be. They keep guessing what it is, and then 5 years later it changes again. So, but I'm hoping we get. My feeling is I like that this one was a little choppier because I'm feeling because they put a lot of the stuff we need front loaded in this episode, so they're free to please nail it. Yeah. I want to see what they do at Omega. I saw someone at the one nerd her guess was someone had asked Davison recently at a convention, would you come back to Doctor Who? Would you come back? He goes, well, I might, if I did, it would be as a different character. And I'm like going, if Omega is Peter Davison,
how weird would that be? How great would that be?
Yeah.
That was his last form when we saw him on
the Arc of Infinity, right?
So yeah.
Oh my God, how incredible would that be?
I'd like it. I would say you don't give him the old cricketer costume, but whatever Omega's robes are cut like a cricketer's one.
Yep.
So it's all a little more fancy or whatever, and just let him ham it up. Tell him, Pete, there's the bar. Go way past it. You can stand on top of it, and just. I'd like to see him be gloriously evil. It would be, I think it'd be kind of cool. So, but I don't know. I would like to see, I really want Susan. I really want them to be together in a shot and be able to, please. And just don't make it a vision. I know
she popped up again for a moment. So I don't think there's any doubt that she's going to be.
Even if it's only because she's 95 and you don't want to take her into a room full of crew. And
I think she's in her 80s. I don't think she's
in
her
80s. Well, okay, she's in her 80s. Well, she was 20. She
was like 20.
She was 26 when she started.
Okay,
so she's like 26 years older than me. That makes her 86. She's 86. Because I was born
86-47, as they've been saying on the internet.
Yeah, but I would like to see her in the TARDIS or something, just and let them, I think I think he would understand what he's going into as an actor, how important it is, and we'd get a great scene. You know, and I think Davies would write a good scene. That's what I want for the ending. For if the show's moving forward or he's leaving, I just want a nice ending for this arc that would be, if they pause, could be a good pause. Like stick the landing.
Realistically, this may be the last episode we get before 2027.
Yep.
Oh yeah, at least. Yeah, we're not getting anything until at least then.
So I wonder if we'll get a come on, Ace, we've got work to do at the end. I'd quite like that.
Who knows? I mean, I'm
or do what I wish they'd done with Jodie and just if Doctor Who had ended at the end of the Chibnall era, my ideal would have been for it to start with her regenerating and then go into the title sequence.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
And I would kind of like that with Shooty. I think that's always a good way to bookend or to sort of, if you're going to have a hiatus or a pause, do that.
Make it something where people go jonesing when we get back, when we get do that. I think they're also going to see how they test drive with the unit spin-off, the Sea Devils, Solarian
the war between the land and the sea.
Yeah, see how they can do that, because it may be like we don't want to have to hold one actor of like some Shooty's. He's in a sweet spot in his career. Yeah, he is really in that sweet spot, and he deserves to try things. Yeah, I think Matt stayed a little too late, and it kind of hurt him. And he also took some fucking bad roles,
terrible choices. Yeah,
that's
his agent's fault, not his.
That's his. Yeah, I'd definitely be firing as you as agent, because I watched Morbius. It wasn't as bad as everybody said, but that I've never been able to get through that Terminator movie because it's a poop.
He was really good in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. If you've never seen it, I highly recommend. He steals every scene he's in as Mr.
Which
Collins.
one was that?
It's called Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Yes, I have seen him in that.
He's so good in that. He's so good.
That is a movie I enjoyed. That and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Killer. We're both actually way more entertaining than they should have been.
But before we leave off,
I want to see that. I mean, I think it would be a good pause. It would allow him to go do a couple movies and decide if he wants. I'll do one more season. Just because they only need him for like 6 months. For a film, you may need somebody for a year. But he's got that new Benedict Olivia Colman movie coming out, and he's in the trailers. Yeah. So, they don't put you in the trailer unless they're trying to get people to come to see your face. Yeah. So, but who knows?
But yeah. Before we leave off this idea of prophecies or what's going to happen next week, I felt like there was a really good and really rich and really almost like weirdly poetic for RTD writing troll in the episode where the Rani says she's talking about the baby and how she needs to like use the Vindicator to like supercharge the wishes, and she literally says, no god of wishes could have infinite power, or we would be drowning in a universe of breast milk. And I felt like that was a troll of fans, like, what they want, what they wish, what their headcanon is, like all this kind of stuff is like, it's so self-indulgent. And I feel like that's the sort of point of that line is like, if the god of wishes had infinite power, then it would just like, it would do nothing but like gorge itself all day. So I feel like that's a sort of like a little bit of a gentle nudge towards the fans to be like, you keep saying that what's on screen is only what's on screen is canon. But if this is on screen and you don't accept it, that's your problem.
Yeah. All right. So, any final thoughts, gentlemen?
I'm still very much looking forward to next week. I think one way or the other, I think it's going to be pretty spectacular, and I'm hoping it's going to be the most visually stunning episode of the season.
I like that they didn't show us Omega. I'm like, what? Save that for tomorrow. Save that for the beginning. Let that be the tag going in. Yeah, let be him the one that saves the Doctor from falling.
He's got a stupid, daft-looking helmet. That's all I hope. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's all I need.
Yeah, you know, the more I think about it and the more I've talked about it with y'all, like I really and I think again, if you go back and watch this episode a couple of times and like really just think, and again, like that's not asking too much, quote, of a Doctor Who fan. You
Oh,
know, it's not like
my
you know,
definite plan
we can
next week is to watch them back to back, is to
because we can
watch it and then watch the new
because we
one
can talk
right
all we
after.
want about the casual viewer, but like the extent to which we worry about that as Doctor Who fans is a little bit puzzling to me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like this series, this RTD2, more than any other Doctor Who, has been sort of arranged around rewatchability, about getting more out of it on a second viewing. It's been about the conversations that you can have about it with your friends. Like I have really loved this season. I really loved this episode for that. Again, as odd and sort of out of left field as it is. And again, I know we'll get back to it next week, but it's been such a pleasure picking it apart and like working through the threads with you guys every week, and especially to the folks who have been listening and engaging with us out on Blue Sky. Like the conversations that happen every week have just been so rich and wonderful and sincere, and not like self-indulgent, but like people actually engaging with what we're talking about, and us engaging with them,
Yeah.
how they engage with it. It's just been such a pleasure. So
Yeah.
thank you guys, and thanks to everyone who's been listening and talking and chatting on the internet. I've loved every minute of this season.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I went into this one thinking, oh, we don't have much to talk about. We don't have much to talk about. And then we talk for an hour and 15 minutes about, and there were deep, you know, we get different. And I think I've liked the response we've gotten from people on the internet, and appreciating it, because it's just, there's a lot of just, you know, there's a little too much to go good to make a decision whether something is good or bad and nowhere in between.
The hot
When
take.
It should be,
yep.
Yeah, the hot take. And I'm glad that the three of us, we have for 2 seasons really not ever done a hot take one, and that we've even accidentally, you know, because it would be an accident if the three of us didn't kind of look a little deeper than most people, I feel.
Accidentally gone on vacation.
Yeah, I
like
mean,
with Nail and I.
Yeah, I've appreciated these. So, like, guys, let's do recommendations, because me and my wife has some stuff to do, and I'm looking forward to just me and her getting out of the house for a little bit.
Yes.
I'm gonna do my first one. I was talking to Jeff about it at first. I want to recommend a comic. It has been collected in what they call in the compendium, which are these giant trade paperbacks. It is called East of West: The End Times. It's by Jonathan Hickman. Nicholas Gratata and Frank Martin. Hickman's known for his Secret Warriors, Avengers, FF, kind of like epic arc he wrote for Marvel. He's going to be doing some new stuff too. This is the first non-superhero stuff of his I've written. It is a 1,100-page tome. It is, in 3 days, I've gotten through the first quarter of it.
That's amazing.
It's that good. It's beautiful. And I even go back and reread bits and pieces because it is pretty dense. It's wonderful. It is one of the best things. And folks, go to instock.coms in this country. And then I'm forgetting there's a place in Europe, but they give massive discounts. I got it for 50%. It's like a $60 book. I got it for 30. You can get it cheap. I don't know if it's Kindle available. I don't know how Image does that, but it's well worth it.
I don't think we should support those assholes anyway.
What?
I said I don't think we should support those assholes anyway. Amazon.
Yeah, I don't buy anything for them unless it's, you know.
You just said Kindle. That's what it brought it up.
Yeah, Kindle. I use it for certain things because.
Yeah, me too.
Because you can't. Well, now that I can't.
But I don't buy anything from them anymore. Yeah.
No. They'll open my files of other things I've downloaded. So. But I like InStock because it's a company of like 10 people, and they're booming because it's cheap. They're cheaper than Amazon, which is good, and because they're just doing it bulk. But it's worth it. It's well worth it if you like if you like science fiction, alternate history, or westerns. It's all three of those, and samurai, giant robots. The Matrix. It's a little bit of everything all at once, and it takes place in an alternate universe where the the meteorite that hit Russia hits America, an alternate history of America in 1908, and the world. And this is 6 years later, and the apocalypse has started, and it's really beautiful and so well written, and it's like crack. I'm about to go to bed, and I say I'll read one more issue, and I read 3, and stay up too late. All right, Melvin, you got anything to recommend?
I watched a movie I've never seen this week called Ponyo, which is a Hayao Miyazaki film from 2008. It's
Oh, I saw you post about that on Blue Sky.
I couldn't. They're going to be showing it again. They're doing a run of Ghibli films in theaters, short run. I don't know if they're doing it in the UK. I hope so. But there's like one every month, and this one's coming up during my birth month, and I was just going to wait. But I went ahead and took the plunge. I've had a few friends keep telling me like this is 100% a movie you would love, and weirdly, like we were talking about Dali earlier, and I feel like Hayao Miyazaki is also sort of running through my head this season of Doctor Who. Like there's something really again about the beauty of the effects, not only just the spectacularness of them, but like there's especially this episode, which is about transformation and change and one thing becoming another. Like really sort of reminded me of Howl's Moving Castle this week's episode. But Ponyo,
love that one.
Yep. But Ponyo is sort of about like a little fish who falls in love. It's a really pure love too, because they're like little children with a little kid from land. But like and again, it sort of reminded me of Doctor Who because her relentless pursuit of an adventure on land with this little boy changes the shape of the entire world. And there's something really beautiful and terrifying about the best Miyazaki films. And I just like, you get to the end of Ponyo. I mean, again, much like some of his greatest films, like Spirited Away, where you're like, it just sort of feels like you've witnessed a miracle. And so, yeah, Ponyo is it's so worth. It's a children's film, but like it's really so much more than that. So that's my recommendation.
Jeff,
I don't really have any recommendations. However, I want to mark 3 things. We've mentioned Star Wars a couple of times today. It's its 47th anniversary on today as we're recording.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the 46th anniversary of Alien. So if you've lived under a rock for the last sort of like 40 odd years, then please do go and watch both of those films because they're both excellent. Thank you very much. Also, Alan Yentob passed away today. He was controller of BBC Two and BBC One, but he also commissioned The Dark Dimension, which eventually became Dimensions in Time, sadly, rather than the full thing for the 30th anniversary. But he also commissioned the
TV movie.
TV movie.
Yep, he's a big part of that 7-year itch documentary.
Yeah. So he passed away today at the age of 78, I think it was.
Oh,
so
that's a little too young.
I'd mention that as well.
One of the great names in Doctor Who.
So I haven't been doing anything. I'm just brain dead.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I'm looking forward to with Leslie is we're going to walk down to the Lowe's and try to find a chair for my balcony, because my things I sit on my balcony have become in this summer have become so waterlogged because it won't stop fucking raining. But the sun's been out. But yeah, the sun's been out in Richmond 2 days in a row. I'm gonna take advantage of it because that's not gonna happen again.
I've got to go pick up fertilizer for my garden, and my friend Sabine is giving me new tomato starts because my dad killed the previous tomato starts that she gave me.
Yeah, our downstairs neighbors, they grow their vegetables on their balcony and they give us some tomatoes. We got to transfer them. So, all right, folks. Thank you, gentlemen, as always. And
thank you, Ross. Thank you, Jeff.
And we will be back next week with the Reality War and our thoughts on the end of the season. So, as always, we look forward to seeing you somewhere in time or space.